Welcome to Dr. Charles Speaks, a podcast for now. You've joined us for a special series of transformational talks, selected exclusively from Dr. Charles's corporate success calls. The 15-minute calls are designed to encourage leaders, activate your thought life, and prepare you for the challenges ahead. Dr. Charles joins every call with a blend of his personal experiences, his expertise as a John Maxwell certified mentor and coach, and of course, his more than 30 years of exceptional experience in both corporate America and ministry. Get motivated with Dr. Charles Speaks, a transformational talk from the red line on today's podcast, inspiring excellence and generating results.
Good day, my friends. This is Dr. Charles. And we want to start this week out on a great, exciting, inspirational note. And I'm here today to continue to push and to challenge you along your personal leadership growth. That's what all the podcasts have been about. It's about encouraging others to continue to keep moving. As I've been saying in this year, keep it moving. And so today, with the time that we have, I want to talk to you about the law of the scoreboard. What do you mean, Dr. Charles, the law of the scoreboard? I've been telling you, I've been reading this book called The 17 Indisputable Laws of Teamwork by John Maxwell, who is one of my mentors. And I've been reading it, and I've been excited about it, and the words that I've been able to gather from the book, I'm sharing some of those excerpts to you today. And so I want to talk about this law of the scoreboard. Now, when you think about the scoreboard, I'm sitting at a basketball game and watching two teams play, and there's a big screen right in the middle of the floor. If you look up towards the ceiling, it's a scoreboard, and it identifies what the score is along the game and how much time is left in the particular quarter, or for that matter, in the game itself. And just imagine if the scoreboard lights shut off and no one would know what the score is. And you just played the game simply by just running up and down the court, not knowing what the score is. And what will happen in that particular scenario is that teams would not know what the score is. And so as a result, they may not get back on defense. They may run up the floor, not really run the plays efficiently, maybe not even having the sense of urgency, but just going through the motions perhaps. So when you think about a scoreboard, it keeps you focused. It keeps your mind on what the score is. And that's what I want to talk about, because when you talk about a team and leading a team or just leading yourself, you need to know the score. Because the thing about it, when you know what the score is, you can make adjustments along the way. You've seen in the basketball games, the score is getting a little bit out of hand. The opposing team is winning. And so the coach that's behind, they call what? A timeout. And they huddle up together and they determine what they need to do to turn the game back in their favor or get back into the game itself and have a shot at winning. Well, if they didn't know what the score is and they just went on assumptions, it just simply wouldn't matter wins and losses and how people are doing and how we can get better, because it's all about knowing the score to do what? To win, to get better, to continue along the journey. And so the team can make adjustments when you start talking about scoreboarding and what the score is. And when a team knows where it stands, you can make the proper adjustments. And so if a team is going to accomplish its goals, if you and I are going to accomplish our goals, and if we're leading a team and we want the team to accomplish the goal, then we're going to need to know each and every day where we stand. And that's where your teammates, your team as a whole, everyone wants to know, where do we stand? And I know in our business, we track and we rank and we publish. And so that each and every day, you know who's in first and who's in last place. And you know the movement in terms of, are we going in the right direction? Are sales increasing or are they decreasing? And we are publishing them so that we're accountable to everyone, that we may be able to assist each other to get back on track, that is, to be successful in what it is that we do. And so at the end of the day or the end of the month or the end of the year, we will have opportunity to celebrate the success of not only knowing what the score is, but obtaining and exceeding the goal that we set out. Because when you know what to do, then you can do what you know. Let me say that again. When you know what to do, then you can do what you know. And no matter what the game is, it doesn't matter. I use basketball as an example. It doesn't matter what the game is. There's always a scoreboard. And there should be, because if you don't know what the score is, then you don't know what the goal is, or perhaps you may know what the goal is, but you don't know how you're tracking to get to the goal. And if a team is to accomplish its goals or its personal goals, it has to know, we as a whole, we have to know where we stand. And that is so important. Why is that important? I asked the question. It's important because teams that succeed, these are the teams that make adjustments to what? To continuously improve themselves and their situations. That's why we check the scoreboard. That's why we call a huddle meeting. That's why we make adjustments as we go along the way so that we can succeed as a result of those adjustments and that we can continuously improve and be consistent. And that's what it takes. Winning teams are consistent. Let me give you another example. Think about how a football team approaches a game. Before the competition starts, the team, what they do is they spend a tremendous amount of time planning. They are planning and they're identifying the opposing teams, the types of plays that they run, the types of situation when they run a particular play, the success of what they've been able to accomplish. And so your job is to identify, well, how is it that we can win? And in that, we're going to have some plans to stop the opposing team so that we can outscore them, because everything is going to be determined whether we win or lose on how well we plan and get ourselves in position to win. And so you see in football what they do, players, not only just coaches, but players, they study for hours, game film. They're looking at the person that they are assigned to. If they're playing the game of basketball, who are they going to be guarding in that game, and what are the tendencies of that particular player? Do they like to go to the left? Do they like to go to the right? Do they like to pull up for a jump shot? Do they like to drive to the rim to score? But they're identifying their tendencies, and then they're looking at ways how can they be more effective in stopping them or having them to detour to their favorite spot, from their favorite spot to an uncomfortable spot where they're not so effective at that particular place on the floor. You know what I'm talking about. And so when you're thinking about the studying of the game itself and the film and the tendencies, you're able to come up with a plan and you're able to come out on top. Because players and teams who study, they spend hours, they spend days figuring out what their opponent is likely to do, and they decide the best way to win. They come up with what? A detailed game plan. And as the game begins, the game plan is very important, and the scoreboard means nothing at that time. But as the game goes on, listen, the game plan means less and less, and the scoreboard becomes more and more significant. Well, why is that, Dr. Charles? Because the game is constantly changing. So what have I said thus far? You are planning in advance. You're studying the tendency of the opposing team. You run the plays, but then as the game goes on, you are making adjustments because the score changes, and they may be something that you're going to have to tweak or you're going to have to change because it's not working. But at the end of the day, you have made the effective change. Have you ever watched a basketball game or a football game? It doesn't matter what game it is, but at halftime, The team may be down. They go into the locker room and they discuss what is working, what's not working. And one team may be down by 10 points. Both teams go into the locker room to discuss the good, the bad, the opportunities. And then the second half begins. And what you notice is that perhaps the team that is behind, they've changed their strategy. They changed their game plan. And you see all of a sudden what didn't work in the first half, they've come up with something else that's working in the second half. And they may, in many cases, you might see a comeback where they eventually win the game. And this comes down to leadership. It comes down to effective coaching because the coach saw something and they made the adjustment. But when the coach is bullheaded and just going to stay with the plan that they put together before the game, and the first half it didn't work, and they continue to make no change, no adjustment, then you know what's going to happen. They more than likely are going to lose the game. So, as I said, as the game begins, the game plan is very important, and the scoreboard means nothing. But then as the game proceeds and goes on, the game plan becomes less and less. And what becomes more important is the scoreboard because it becomes more and more significant because the game is constantly changing and adjustments are being made. So you see, the game plan tells us what you want to happen. That's what the game plan does. But the scoreboard, it tells us what is actually happening by the second, by the minute, because we look up at the scoreboard and we see whether or not we're winning or losing and how much time is left in the game. And that's what it comes down to is this. No team, no person can ignore the reality of its situation and win. Now, applies to not only just managing a team, leading a team. This applies to your personal journey, my personal journey, and it's so important that we understand. So there's some things I want to say before I close. One, the scoreboard is essential. It's essential to understanding because in sports, players, coaches, and fans, they understand the importance of the scoreboard. That's why it's so visible at every stadium and every arena, every ball field, everywhere you look. The scoreboard, what it does, it provides a snapshot of the game at any given time. In the business, it's all about tracking, ranking, publishing, and knowing what the score is. Number two, the scoreboard is essential to evaluating. What do you mean? The scoreboard, it gives us what? Continuous feedback. Competing without a scoreboard is like bowling without pins. You may be working hard, my friends, but you don't really know how you're doing without the scoreboard. Number three, the scoreboard is essential to decision making. You can have a game plan, but going back to football, the quarterback uses information from the scoreboard to decide what play to call. In baseball, the scoreboard helps the manager know when it's time to get the relief pitcher ready and warmed up in the bullpen to come into the game. In basketball, it can be used to determine whether to call a timeout because things are not going the way that you thought they would go. So the scoreboard is essential in adjusting because making key adjustments is really the secret, get this, is the secret to winning. And the scoreboard helps you and I to see the adjustments that we must make. The last point I want to share with you is the scoreboard is essential to winning. It's about winning, folks. In the end, nobody can win without the scoreboard. How do you know when time is running out? Unless you check the scoreboard. What have we been talking about? Teamwork and knowing the score, knowing how to make the adjustment. The key to winning is to know the score always, evaluating, making adjustments, and making wise and timely decisions as quickly as possible. That, my friends, is the key to winning. Thank you. You've been listening to Dr. Charles. This is The Red Line, and have a great day and a great week.
Thank you for listening to Dr. Charles Speaks. Visit drcharlesred.com for booking info for your ministry, business, or leadership team. Get info about the Red Line, a 15-minute corporate success call each Monday morning with Dr. Charles. Follow Dr. Charles on all social media at Dr. Charles Red. Subscribe to the podcast here for every episode of Dr. Charles Speaks. Thanks for joining us. Like Dr. Charles always says, no matter what, never, never, never give up. Until next time.